At the heart of Silco's ceremony is Betonie's ritual. So we should spend a little bit of time here to kind of think about how the ritual works at the core of the novel in redefining Teo's world and his relationship to it. First, when he comes upon Betonie, he notes the medicine man's paraphernalia, all the things kind of scattered throughout Betonie's living space. He first notes that it's a circular room, which distinguishes it from the squared off rooms of his experience in the world outside. It's just about halfway underground, so it exists in this kind of strange mythical space that's between worlds in a way. He looks around the room and sees Betonie's kind of stuff that's gathered, all the detritus of the healer's experience. As Teo notes that he wants to dismiss it all as an old man's rubbish, but they were plainly part of the pattern. They followed the concentric shadows of the room, and so there's all this kind of gathered detritus that's part of Betonie's world and his hold on the world. And the medicine man asks Teo in the end, as he looks around the room, what do I make out of that? As Teo notes that the room's filled with bundles of newspapers, piles of telephone books with years scattered among cities, and a kind of a wide range of North American cities are present in those phone books, names and dates and places and all kinds of things just kind of gathered around. And Betonie reminds Teo at this point, right, that all these things have stories alive in them, that they are keeping track of things, that there's an inherent buried narrative within these documents, and that his job is to try to bring those stories out and make them alive again for Teo. Teo has some doubts about this, right? That as he looks at all of this kind of trash that he sees in the room, the newspapers and the old phone books and the things that Betonie's gathered over the years, the stuff that's been cast off by the outside world, he asks himself what kind of healing power was in this. What kind of power is there versus particularly the powers of the outside world, the powers of the white world and its weapons and its ability to lay claim on the land. Betonie notes here, right, that there's a kind of a shift that happens in the world, that that the ceremonies need to change with the kinds of witchery that have been practiced here. For him, it's always a question in the end, though, of the land. As Betonie notes on pages 127, 128, we always come back to that, don't we? The land which was stolen. The deeds and papers don't mean anything. It is the people who belong to the mountain. So the ceremony for Betonie is going to try to reconnect Teo to that land. It's going to try to reinvigorate a sense of Teo's connection there, his place within the land, his own kind of a sense of being owned by that land. And so he takes him up onto the mountain, the sacred mountain, and shows him that world. And strangely enough for Teo, when he goes up onto the mountain after this journey, that he can see no sign of what had been set loose upon the earth. The highways, the towns, and even the fences were gone. So Betonie offers him a renewed vision of the space, the way it was before the witchery came at it, the way it was before the deeds and the papers redefined the land as belonging to the whites. He tells Teo at this point, I've seen a mountain and I've seen a woman. And he invests Teo with the power to reclaim a sense of the land. He tells Teo, it's up to you now. Don't let them stop you. Don't let them finish off the world. And so in this moment, right, he charges Teo with fighting back against the powers of the witchery, which is slowly working to undo the world. And so this becomes Teo's charge in the ceremony. What effect does that ceremony have upon Teo? Well, he goes in and that night he sees that he looks at the sand paintings that have been done by Betonie, and he sees that the world below and the sand paintings inside had become the same that night. So Betonie sets out the world in the ceremony of the sand paintings, and then the wider world kind of takes on that form for Teo. In a way, it's like the undifferentiated space of Teo's experience, which has been defined by his addiction, by his sense of grief over his losses in the war, his a sense of trauma from the war itself and its violence, has become through the ceremony a defined space of his people's experience. And so Betonie, through the ceremony, gains that redefined sense of space for Teo here. As the novel notes on page 169, as Betonie said, it was everything they had seen, the cities, the power of their weapons and machines. They were never the same after that. They had seen what the white people had made from the stolen land. So they tried to silence their grief with war stories, defending the land they had already lost. So it's a renewed sense of contact with that land that's there, right? That sense of what has been made from the lands of the West, what has been kind of crafted in terms of violence from the products of that land, what drives the war itself in terms of added conquest and growth, and that Teo now can see the world as it is for him, as it is for his people, as visioned from the sacred mountain in the end. So it's interesting in terms of Silko's novel here, right, is how ritual space offers a renewed sense of wider geography here. In what ways does the ceremony's ritual space repattern the world, and does this work similarly in terms of the ways in which we think about novel and story? What ways do these also have perhaps sacred qualities to them, or mythical qualities that redraw the world for us? As the novel notes, in the ceremony itself on pages 141 and the following, Betonie, the old man, painted a dark mountain range, and then he sings, "In dangerous places you traveled, Teo, I will bring you back." Does story have the power to bring us back? Ceremony certainly explores that question, and we'll continue with it.